Analysis of international relations.
Orada.
Okay. We're starting in a minute. We invite everyone to join us.
More panelists than audience.
Yes,
More panelists than audience.
Хорошо, что не привет.
Sefirimiz de var, değil mi? Sefirimiz de var.
Evet, büyükelçimiz de.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rosen Plevneliev, former president of Bulgaria. We'll be very proud to moderate this panel, extremely strategically important. We have very serious group here of distinguished speakers. I promise to be on time as our program is extremely rich. And of course, this panel hopefully will enrich all of you about what's going on in such an important issue as energy security. Now we are starting. There is total consensus all over Europe, all over the world, how energy contributes to security. And we're going to talk about energy security today. Energy security for Europe is linked to the Southern Gas Corridor as a true provider of diversity and security. We have a number of nations that contribute heavily and they're ambitious to be part of this great project. We're going to talk about the Southern Gas Corridor. We're going to talk about diversity for European economies. We're going to talk about energy. I'm very proud to be with you today. Probably it makes sense even for Bulgarian president to moderate this panel today because Bulgaria is a perfect example of what was and what it is today talking about energy. And just in a minute, just to give an example, Bulgaria was totally dependent of just one monopole pipe and one monopoly provider of energy services. If there was a country to be pointed out where energy, and especially gas, has never been traded to a market prices, but Bulgaria always overpaid at least $100 per 1,000 cubic meters for generations, that was Bulgaria. And probably today Bulgaria is a very good example because of the following facts that happen, and I'm proud to tell you about that as a president that served this wonderful country in the period 2012-2017. We put energy security, energy diversity, and energy efficiency into the very heart of politics. We have built within several years a gas interconnectors to Romania, a gas interconnector to Turkey. We are building gas interconnector to Greece, and you are building a gas interconnector to Serbia. We invested $1.3 billion today in a contract with a Saudi Arabian-based company that is building 10 kilometers a day in Bulgaria today as a part of what we believe is a national strategy for diversification of gas resources, to be free to choose the best contractors on the best market prices. I was very proud as a head of state to announce a strategic partnership with Azerbaijan, to sign a strategic partnership with Azerbaijan and seal a deal, a contract for 1 billion cubic meters gas that Bulgaria is going to buy from Azerbaijan. as part of our energy security, a very important contract. And now we can stand here and report to all of you who understand that energy security is extremely important, that it brings or takes working places, that it brings or takes poverty or especially richness to countries, because you overpay, you cannot be rich. That the Southern Gas Corridor and the ambition of Bulgaria to become linked, to be part of the project, and to become a kind of a hub for the Balkans is paying off, and today we're much better off. Factories are coming also because you're diversified and you have secured market-oriented prices of energy resources. Last but not least, energy, we all believe, has to be a tool, has to be good, that is gas, neft, electricity, a good that has to be traded on stock exchanges or between countries on a market price. Energy should not be a weapon. And here we are to really bring a lot of important ideas, initiatives, and concrete steps how to help everyone in the region to trade energy freely on a fair price. So I'm very proud to run this panel, and now I'm turning the floor to my colleague, the President of Georgia, the good friend of mine, Giorgi Margvelashvili. He will tell us a bit more about his view on energy security for Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosen. And I want to start with thanking Nizami Ganjavi Foundation for giving us possibility to congregate in this great city with my old friends from various countries with some new faces, which I'm happy to see, and talk about these very important issues from very interesting dimensions. And the energy dimension is just one dimension, but we have gone in depth discussing other issues, as well as with the common value-based attitude for peace, stability, security, and the visionary development of our regions. It's also very exciting that we had the opportunity to have today the visit to His Holiness, and I just want to thank the Foundation for a very well-organized program, and also a very sharply defined topics for our discussions. Well, the energy issues. Listen, how much time have I got?
Well, in the European Parliament, also in the Italian Parliament, they will give you 3 to 5 minutes max.
Okay, I'll question whether we should join you or not.
Because we want to have a very lively panel. A lot of people are interested, but shoot directly and just give your thoughts.
Okay, I will. Well, the good part about discussing energy security, especially in context of Georgia, is that in a way, by talking about the energy security issues linked to my country, I can completely define to you what are the challenges and what are the opportunities for Georgia, and maybe a little bit about what was the history of this project, because since Georgia became independent after collapse of Soviet Union, we have witnessed a very well-defined project that was basically built on the cooperation of three leaders in the Caucasus. This was President Aliyev, President Shevardnadze, and President Demireli of Turkey, which have had vision of energy cooperation, which was linking basically the Caspian Sea with the Black Sea resources and channeling these opportunities, giving an option for Caspian resources to go through a new alternative route, and that route was Georgia. And it is very interesting that I will not go into depth, but this personality cooperation of very, very visionary leaders has brought a very interesting solution in the end of 90s, which has brought, which started as the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan project, but further it has furthered into many interesting phases, and we are now actually discussing one of the very interesting phases of development of the Shah Deniz resources into two major pipelines of TAP and TANAPI, which bring solutions, energy solutions, now to the Mediterranean and to the southern part of Europe. This is very important because this is very important for Georgia, not only from financial position but it's really part of our geopolitics. What have we what have we brought through this solution? We have brought a cooperation of nations with Azerbaijan, with Turkey, now with other nations that are joining this direction, a cooperation and an energy solution that is financially and politically and security-wise very viable for the parties that are going to get engaged. So, from that perspective, our country's policy has been basically targeted, including what I was doing during my presidency, it was basically targeted to widening of this cooperation in its geography. And the widening is very important because the widening brings in more players. That means it brings more interests, and that means brings more commitments and security for this region. So I am happy to start observing that not only the Eastern Caspian part of the Eastern Caspian part, meaning Azerbaijan, is getting more engaged and is starting developing more of its capacities into soliciting into energy security of Europe, but we are hoping and we are having perspectives that the eastern part of the Caspian will also get engaged into this process, and that means geopolitically a lot for the orientation of the region, for the energy, for the economic freedom of the region, for their geopolitical commitments, and as well as soliciting to the stability of the southern part of Europe. But at the same time, when we are talking about this, and I'm trying to be short, we are talking right away about the challenge that Georgia and the whole concept of energy cooperation through Caspian Black Sea routes and the Mediterranean is facing. And the challenge is obvious, and the challenge is clear and very big and very outspoken in many cases, and the challenge is Russia, because Russia has been a state that has been of a defined threat for its neighbors. And the threat, it has been the threat not only in dimension in which I have many times talked and shared with you, and this is the direct occupation and direct power sort of pressing on its neighbors and occupying the territories of its neighbors, but it has been also a state which is not only militarily very strong, but is also energy-wise very strong, which uses this resource as a political tool for furthering its agenda. My good friend Yushchenko was sitting on the previous panel, and I think that he will very clearly outline the problems that we are facing vis-à-vis our big neighbor. But I just wanted to further these discussions also with the challenges that we are facing based on the energy policy and the using energy resources as a political tool, and trying to push and create problems for your neighbors through energy capacity. We are discussing right now, there are discussions on energy transmit projects with Ukraine, and that is going to be a very challenging discussion for President Zelensky in the nearest future. Georgia has gone through this kind of case. I remember in 2006, when it was during the winter, it was completely dependent on Russian gas, and suddenly the gas pipeline, because Georgia was not so cooperative with Russia as it had to be, suddenly the gas pipeline exploded, and basically all of the country was totally left without an energy supplies during a very harsh winter. So what we did after that is we started diversifying. This is now already our internal energy security policy. We started diversifying. Now we have a very active cooperation with Azerbaijan, and we are very sure that this cooperation has worked for many years and is bringing very clear solutions for Georgia's energy security. We have great potential as a hydro energy state, because Georgia is one of the richest countries with its hydro resources, and we will look into that. We'll look into other renewables, and we are targeted for that as well. But to make this presentation short, basically we have found our geopolitical role in creating solutions in the region. And solutions work in several ways. We are a very open country for energy transportation, solutions, and making friends around this transportation and communication line. And we are a country that offers an alternative to Russian dominance on energy transfer. And this alternative creates also options for the countries engaged through this East-West cooperation. I think that I will try to
Thank you,
finalize
Mr. President. Great. You gave us a great example of historic point of view, where you were, what you've done, their results, and there is a progress that was seen. There was political vision. I would always remember, as we all came together in Baku, 10 heads of state and government signing and giving the groundbreaking ceremony for the Southern Gas Corridor, and today we are very, very, very advanced. And that brings diversity, that brings good money and good prices, and that brings, of course, a future. So now, of course, the Southern Gas Corridor, but also energy diversity for Europe is not possible without Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan was devoted, invested heavily into, and went into very brave and decisive steps, hoping that also the European Union will come by. And there is a very, very, very big progress today we can see. And I think one of the best speakers today to tell us what's going on about the Southern Gas Corridor, but also about the ambitions of Azerbaijan to deliver diversity for Europe, is the ambassador of Azerbaijan to the Italian Republic. So, Your Excellency, I give you the floor.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to Italian Senate and particularly President Casellati for opening of one of the most beautiful venues of Italian Senate for organizing this event, Sala Zuccari. At the same time, I would like to thank Nizami Ganjavi International Center, which is named after a great poet, Azerbaijani poet, Nizami Ganjavi, and founded by the auspices of the President of Azerbaijan. Of course, my gratitude to Mr. Franco Frattini for this excellent organization. I think that the selection of Rome for holding such kind of event is not random, for three reasons. First of all, as I told, Franco Frattini, he is one of the influential Italian politicians, and we are in the very best hands. And he's a very great friend of Azerbaijan, and he's supporting all initiatives of our embassy and all that is useful for Azerbaijan-Italian relations. Second one, Rome is a city, one of the cities of the world where situated the status of Nizami Ganjavi, great poet of Azerbaijan. And third one, because of Italian-Azerbaijan relations. I know that this event is a preliminary phase of the next edition of global forum that will take place in Azerbaijan, and Italy is chosen second time for organizing this event. Azerbaijan and Italy today enjoys excellent relations. We have a strategic partnership. We have a very high political dialogue. Last year we had President Mattarell's visit to Azerbaijan, as well as President Casellati's visit to Azerbaijan. At the same time, first Vice President of Azerbaijan paid official visit to Italy, and some months ago we had Speaker of our Parliament with official visit to Italy. Two countries collaborate in economic sphere. We have very huge economic agenda. Italy is Azerbaijan's first trade partner, and Azerbaijan is the biggest oil provider of Italy. There are a lot of Italian companies working in Azerbaijan. We have a huge cultural intensive agenda. And next year, we'll organize in Italy the Year of Azerbaijani Culture, and I'm sure that that initiative will bring together our two peoples. Coming back to our panel, it's my privilege and honor to share this panel with such a distinguished speakers. As we know, this panel is dedicated to energy. Azerbaijan's history, Azerbaijan's culture, our economy, our international relations linked closely to energy factor. Azerbaijan is one of the ancient places of the world for oil and gas development. A famous Venetian traveler, Marco Polo, in his book Il Millennio, described Azerbaijan oil and gas rich. But the turning point in Azerbaijani industry started in 19th century, when in Azerbaijan was drilled, at the first time in the world, the first well in industrial manner. And first tanker, first oil pipeline was in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan produced 52% of oil production in 1901. And during the Second World War, 70%, more than 70% of all oil produced in the Soviet Union came from Azerbaijan. And Azerbaijani oil had great role in the victory of the Soviet Union in the Second World War. Modern era of Azerbaijani oil and gas industry started 1904, some years after the regaining of independence. And that period was very difficult and a very turbulent phase of our history because of the aggression by the neighboring Armenia. As you know, Azerbaijan actually has 20% of its territories under the Armenian occupation, and we have more than 1 million refugees and IDPs coming from the all-occupied territories. But the wisdom, the strategy of the leadership of Azerbaijan made effective the important energy strategy of our country. With the signing of first contract 1994, which is called Contract of the Century, and this event tremendously changed the life of my country, its political situation, its economy, and of course had very important role for the integration of Azerbaijan to the world economy. I would like to speak about four main projects that are the main pillars of Azerbaijani energy strategy, which is the first project that I have already mentioned, the contract of the century, 1904, and this is contract for the development of very huge oil fields in the Azerbaijani sector of the Caspian Sea, Azeri-Çırak-Güneşli, and up to date we produced more than 500 million tons of oil from that fields, and Azerbaijan received more than 130 billion net income from the exploration of that fields. At the same time, within the development of that fields, more than 40 billion of investments made in Azerbaijan economy by the international oil companies, and these fields show the Baku, Tbilisi, Ceyhan, with, of course, our regional partners at Georgia, Turkey, started to have a very important role and contributed a lot to the security of energy security of European countries. And today, there are some European countries, including Italy, these projects contribute a lot to their energy security. As I said, Italy is our main trade partner, and 30% of Azerbaijani export comes to Italy, and last year 20% of demand of crude oil for Italy came from Azerbaijan. So it's very evident example to understand how important ACG and Baku, Tbilisi, Ceyhan for Europe and for the Italian economy. Another project that actually Azerbaijan is linked to the present and the future of Azerbaijan, of course, is Shah Deniz second phase development and Southern Gas Corridor. This is a project of $40 billion of investments and engaged 7 countries, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, Greece, Albania, and Italy. And of course, in the future, this project will change the energy map of the Europe. And it can provide around 20% of gas demand of all Europe. As you know, at the beginning of the project, we are talking about 8 billion cubic meters of gas, which will come from Azerbaijan to Italy. And the next steps, these volumes of gas can be duplicated. And it is around 12% of Italy's demand for gas. And we are very happy that Italian government, from the beginning of this project, all Italian governments supported the realization of this project, and we are very happy that some days ago we had last authorizations for the verification of compliances. It means that there is no any technical or bureaucratic obstacle for the realization of this project within the agreed schedule. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. You pointed out very clearly how Italy and also Azerbaijan coming together with a lot of regional partners, neighbors, into a very serious project for energy security and diversity for Europe as a whole. And we want to thank you and Azerbaijan for that. Just a very quick question. So when you're saying about near time, what could be the expected year of operation of the Southern Gas Corridor? We know that a lot of countries are performing extremely correct and well, and some others are a bit in a delay.
But you know, as I told you some days ago, we received the signing of the decree by the Minister of Environment of Italy, right. And it means that, as you know, all authorizations for the verification of compliance for the construction of the pipeline, in particular in the offshore coasts of Italy, was suspended. We were waiting for these two authorizations, and finally we had this decree, and it means that after the signing of this decree, top consortiums, they made a communication to this press, and they said that now they are very optimistic that the project can be realized, and particularly the construction of the project can be realized within the agreed schedule, and gas can come to Italy for the October of 2020.
Great news. Perfect. Okay. Of course, now it's a great honor for me to give the floor to somebody, a close friend of ours, to all of us, who represents another very ambitious country on the way of bringing gas from the Caspian region and not just, to European Union and the countries in Europe. Of course, that's Turkey, and Turkey has invested a lot. It's extremely ambitious. And it was very, very good to hear about the plans of your country, but also your expertise and wisdom. I give the floor to the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, Hikmet Cetin.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to thank Nizami Gencevi, Italian Senate, and all other contributors. But one thing I want to mention, until now, the subject of the panel was energy security, challenges of Caspian and Mediterranean region. Right now I have in front of me that they delete Mediterranean regions and only European security. For that reason, I want to say a few words about Mediterranean region as well. As we know, broadly speaking, energy security is a precondition for economic growth and stability. Without predictable, reliable, and economically sound energy supplies, economy cannot prosper. Energy is essential to nearly every major challenge and opportunity the globe faces today. This is why energy security started to form an important part of greater security concept. Let me start with the Caspian Basin. Caspian Basin is rich with hydrocarbon resources and historically has been an important exporter of oil and gas, as been mentioned by Mr. Ambassador. Turkey perceives the Caspian Sea not as a barrier, but rather as a sea of connection, not only between the littoral states, but also between Turkey and Eurasian landmass. Turkey enjoy good relation with all littoral states, and we wish to see the Caspian Sea as a basin of peace and prosperity at the heart of Asia. As some of you already know, Caucasian and Anatolian components of the Southern Gas Corridor are now completed, and the natural gas from Azerbaijan has reached to Turkey through Trans-Anatolian natural gas pipeline. TANAP's readiness to provide natural gas to Europe is indeed a very significant development, not only for Turkey, but for the entire region. Now it is time for the completion of Trans-Adriatic pipeline, so that Azerbaijan natural gas could reach Europe. Actually, on the 30th of this month, coming Saturday, the interconnect of TANAP to TAP will be inaugurated by Turkey, Azerbaijan, and other international countries. Day after, no, 2 days from now. At this moment, I would like to thank the President of Azerbaijan, İlham Aliyev, because without his vision, his contribution, and his support, would not be easy to realize this project in a very short time. For that reason, I would like to thank the President of Azerbaijan once again. With the completion of TAP, Turkey's status as an important energy partner for Europe will be once again underlined. Last year, we have witnessed the signing of a very symbolic convention in Akau regarding the legal status of the Caspian Sea. Although some issues like the delimitation of the usage of seabed remain vague, the Akau Convention constitutes a historic step for the signatories. Northern riparian states, Azerbaijan, Russian Federation, and Kazakhstan, were able to delimit the seabed among themselves. Yet, southern riparian countries also need to find a common ground on this very important and particular issue. All signatories except Iran have ratified the Akau agreement already. Therefore, we will need to monitor this final ratification and implementation phase of this important agreement. From my country perspective, we are hopeful regarding Trans-Caspian projects. We believe that there are still many opportunities in the field of energy for the countries of the region. Now I would like to say a few words about the Mediterranean, because it is important politically, economically, and energy also. In the Eastern Mediterranean region, where challenges seem much bigger than opportunities now. As you all know, there have been a series of natural gas discoveries of Israel, Cyprus Island, and Egypt since 2009. These discoveries may have the potential to transfer the energy outlook of the region. If we were able to leave aside the political difficulties, the Eastern Mediterranean natural gas finds could simultaneously serve different purposes. For example, some of the resources could be used for domestic consumption, which actually is taking place in the example of Egypt and Israel already. Some could be exported and contribute to the energy security of Europe, thus decrease the continent's dependence on limited suppliers, and they could also act as a catalyst for regional reconciliation. Unfortunately, the situation is not that forthcoming. From early 2000 onwards, we have been witnessing unilateral moves from certain actors of our region. For instance, starting from the first half of 2000s, the Greek Cypriot administration of South Cyprus concluded sea delimitation agreements with some other regional countries. These agreements which Turkey does not recognize. Since the very beginning, we have always underlined that we will protect both our own rights and interests in our continental shelf and the Turkish Cypriots. Inalienable rights on the island's natural resources. The hydrocarbons issue has two aspects. First one is related to the delimitation of maritime jurisdiction areas in the Eastern Mediterranean, and the second concern the protection of inalienable rights of the Turkish Cypriots. The first dimension is a matter of sovereignty for Turkey. We are resolute to continue our drilling and seismic operation within Turkey's continental shelf as registered with the UN since 2004 and within the permit license that our government granted to Turkish Petroleum since 2009. Turkey is ready to talk with the regional countries, including Greece, to conclude maritime delimitation agreements in accordance with international law. On the other hand, the delimitation issue in the west of the island can only be addressed following the comprehensive settlement of Cyprus issue. The second dimension is about the rights of the Turkish Cypriots, who are the co-owners of the Cyprus island and have equal rights on the natural resources of the island. Unless these rights are guaranteed at once, Turkish drilling and survey vessels will continue their operation in the areas where the Turkish Cypriot authorities granted license to Turkish Petroleum. There is no need to wait for a settlement in the island to guarantee the Turkish Cypriot rights. They should benefit from hydrocarbon revenues simultaneously without any delay. I must underline the fact that Turkey stands in the first place for Eastern Mediterranean hydrocarbon resources, not only as a consumer, but also for transfer to Europe, which is very short way to get the gas from that part of the world to Europe. Turkey will continue to encourage the implementation of fundamental principles of international law, as well as cooperation in the region towards lasting stability and welfare of all the people in the Eastern Mediterranean. In conclusion, I want to stress once again the importance of efficient cooperation and dialogue between producer, transit, and consumer countries in the region for sustained economic stability and prosperity, and assure you that Turkey will play its part in the crucial energy game it did until now in that part of the region. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. You pointed out that the TANAP has been built, the interconnector to TAP is going to be inaugurated next week. That's truly great news. And now we're moving further to TAP, not just the countries who are there and deliver a great job. Greece has been building, Albania has been building, and now it's reaching Italy. And we are extremely happy of showing that this project of international cooperation is coming to everyone and is going to bring results and diversity to everyone. But there are also additional plans and ideas how other countries, and especially from the Western Balkans, and not just, could benefit from Southern Gas Corridor. And that's why it's a great honor for me to give the floor to my colleague, Filip Vujanovic, President of Montenegro. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends,
I am grateful to Nizami Ganjavi International Center for organizing this panel and giving me opportunity to express my opinion about these significant issues. I think that this panel is so important concerning two facts. Firstly, ownership and the quality of energy is indeed precondition of economic stability, the basis of economic development, and guarantee of quality of life of citizens. Because of differences among regions and countries, we are obliged to do everything to improve situation in the energetic sector, to have a new achievement, and to have a fruitful cooperation. Energy development implies dialogue, agreement, and cooperation. Energy development excludes disrespect and the use of force. It is necessary to be close. It is necessary to solve problems, and it is necessary to have a new achievement. Cooperation in the energy field must be bilateral, region, and in the global level. Second one, I am grateful to Nizami Ganjavi International Center to give me opportunity to address you, because I was at an important regional and intercontinental conference that made a crucial decision for the cooperation and energy future of this part of Mediterranean. In December 2013, Baku, as the president of Montenegro, I participated in the conference establishing the Adriatic part of pipeline from Caspian Sea to the Mediterranean region. It is so important for the Western Balkan. It is so important for this part of Mediterranean, and I expect that it will be finished concerning prediction we have now. It is so important, and we must respect this project concerning energetic situation in Mediterranean. This offers the wealth of gas from the Sakh-Danish II from Caspian Sea as a chance to solve lack of this energy as important part of Mediterranean. The Adriatic direction within Adriatic Ion pipeline includes Albania, Montenegro, Croatia, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. And at the end of this conference, an agreement was signed among Montenegro, Albania, Croatia, and Azerbaijan. I absolutely agree with our friend Hikmet concerning the role of President of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev. He deserves a lot of respect. He is and he was in position to push this project, and at this conference he announced his opinion that this pipeline connection is historical energetic project in the 21st century. And it is, I think, absolutely good judgment. What I emphasized at that conference in relation of Montenegro, I think now, it is a significant project for Montenegro that offers the energy source that Montenegro does not have. It gives a chance for important income, new jobs, but also an opportunity for Montenegro to confirm itself as an energy hub of the Western Balkan. This position of energy hub of Montenegro is strongly contributed by the submarine cable for the transmission of electricity between Montenegro and Italy, which was put into operation this month. It is valuable energy connection between the Western Balkan and Italy, and this part of Europe, and Italy and this part of Europe. And for us, Mr. Frattini, new bridge between Italy and Montenegro, and we are so proud concerning it. We have had a very fruitful, very rich relation with Italy during history, now, and I am sure in the future. I am sure that our Queen, Jelena, is, I think, the best representative of Montenegro dynasty and Montenegro in Italy, one of the most beautiful daughters of our King Nicola. We have had the fortune that we had the Queen of Serbia, two princes of Romanov, Princess of Bettenburg, who was a sister of Saxo-Bulgarsky of Bulgaria, and our King Nicola succeeded in having so good and rich network with dynasty in Europe, giving Montenegro a very important position in our region. We are so proud concerning visit on President Sandro Pertini, 1983, concerning anniversary of Garibaldi's brigade in Montenegro and to respect anti-fascism in Montenegro. And I'm so proud having occasion to host President Sergio Mattarella 4 years ago, to be here at the end of mandate, and that our president, Milo Đukanović, visited Italy as first visit after he became president. And it is, I think, good proof about relation between two countries. It is not, by the way, it is so important for us, and I'm so proud concerning such close, friendly, and good relation between two countries. Montenegro is very, very interested in regional dialogue and energy integration of the Western Balkan concerning energy stability, and we are dedicated to do everything to improve it. The primary design of Adriatic-Ion gas pipeline should be completed by September next year. It's very important, and Montenegro is dedicated to respect it. We are dedicated to do everything to participate in regional conversation and new achievements. And finally, I would like to express expectation that this pipeline network will be very, very important, and for Mediterranean will be so important in next period. Concerning it, President of Georgia and Minister of Turkey and my friend Rosen Plevneliev, Montenegro is dedicated to do everything to succeed in such very important project. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was great what you said, with so much passion and proudness. Montenegrins are small but extremely brave, open-minded, just a great nation. They've been fighting on the side of Garibaldi. They've been fighting for the liberation of Bulgaria. I mean, you guys are building bridges, and now, of course, it comes to gas pipelines, it's come to electricity networks. That's what we all believe in. And that's what actually is the future to all of us. Bring people, cultures, networks, gas pipelines, electricity, all of them together. When nations come together, they stop fighting. It's clear. So, great. And now, of course, it's another very important point you made, that actually Southern Gas Corridor is not just linked to the countries who participate, but brings a new vision and perspective to many others. For example, Hungary is thinking about that, building a gas interconnector to Serbia. Serbia is thinking about that, building a gas interconnector to Bulgaria. We agreed on that. And Bulgaria is thinking heavily on that, as we invest in almost 2 billion on what we call the gas hub Balkan, building interconnectors to all our neighbors. And this is really another very important point of connectivity as prerequisite for diversity. Now, very important next statement. Madam Jafarova represents the Center for Analysis of International Relations. She is a deputy chairman. The floor is yours, madam.
Thank you. Thank you very much, distinguished guests, dignitaries. Allow me at the outset to express my appreciation for this invitation to address this distinguished panel, which deals with this very salient topic. Many of you spoke about energy security and the importance of energy in the current world, so I'm going to just say a couple of words about it. The geopolitical context of the world is constantly changing, and it impacts not only interstate relations, but also energy infrastructure and energy connectivity. And Azerbaijan's energy policy during 25 years since its independence aimed at contributing to stability, cooperation, and mutually beneficial partnerships in its neighborhood and beyond. The initiation and successful implementation of Azerbaijan's oil and gas strategy is the manifestation of a resolute and well-thought policies of Azerbaijani leadership, who in tandem with international partners work towards ensuring energy security of the continent. The energy projects implemented by Azerbaijan over the years, such as Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan, Baku-Tbilisi-Erzurum, oil and gas pipelines, as well as a multi-billion mega project, the Southern Gas Corridor, about which we're talking today, serve peace, stability, and integration. Our openness to cooperation, strong political support, and commitment of our partners have been crucial to realization of our international projects. The estimated gas reserves of Azerbaijan are 2.6 trillion cubic meters. The existing Baku-Tbilisi-Erzurum gas pipeline did not suffice for the exploration of these fields and the transportation of large production volumes of gas. The necessity to explore these reserves and turn them into a strategic commodity for energy security of a broader region begot the strategic project, the Southern Gas Corridor. The corridor is 3,500 kilometer length. It consists of 4 integral parts, which you all probably know very well. Shahtanis 2 project, Southern Gas Pipeline Extension, Trans-Anatolian Pipeline, and Trans-Adriatic Pipeline, which is going to come into the Italian territory, the last piece of the Southern Gas Corridor. Thus, the Southern Gas Corridor project, initiated in 2013 and inaugurated last year in May, has become an important chain of energy security, economic development, and global partnership. The significance of this project is also enhanced due to the fact that it is the first tangible mega project that exists in Europe which unites all components of energy security. Together with its partners and through the Southern Gas Corridor, Azerbaijan is working towards the creation of European gas market that envisages competitiveness and diversification of sources and routes. This project requires solid partnership, continuous political and donor support. The works on all 4 segments of the Southern Gas Corridor are successfully implemented. The inauguration of TANAP in June last year became the bedrock of the Southern Gas Corridor. And we are going to witness another magnificent ceremony at the end of this month on TANAP. We have already delivered 3.8 billion cubic meters of natural gas to Turkey by the end of October. And as of June 2020, Turkey will start to receive 6 billion cubic meters of gas. With the onset of the final implementation stage of the Southern Gas Corridor, successful completion of works on TAP became even more important, as the ambassador of Azerbaijan rightly noted that there is a huge progress on that too. So we're going to witness the timely completion of the project overall by the time that it is really projected and by the time it is really considered. With the completion of TAP, we will contribute to the energy security of Italy, as well as of the countries in the southern and eastern Europe. We will ensure the diversification of routes and sources and contribute to the decarbonization efforts of the continent. The Southern Gas Corridor project also brings social benefits, and this is not less important than any other benefit that it brings, such as new employment opportunities in the countries through which the corridor passes, which doubtlessly has positive impact on the economy of these countries. Moreover, substantial investments for the environmental protection have been attracted to the works done on all segments of the Southern Gas Corridor. Distinguished delegates, the inalienable element of any multilateral project involving diverse countries should be the spirit of cooperation, trust, and mutually stable relations among the countries. These values define the success of the project as big as the ambitious as the Southern Gas Corridor that unites 7 countries across the region. In the spirit of this cooperation and respect for its commitments, Azerbaijan's priority is to deliver first gas to Europe in 2020. We have fully implemented all of our commitments in this regard. And the strategic importance of this corridor is not only confined to Azerbaijan and the countries involved. This mega project has the potential to expand to Balkans, Central and Western Europe as well, to attract new supplier, transit, and consumer countries. I am convinced that Azerbaijan and its partners' commitments to common objectives and steady cooperation will henceforth remain a driving force behind the successful completion of the Southern Gas Corridor. As President Ilham Aliyev said during the opening ceremony of the Southern Gas Corridor last year, and I quote, "We are implementing such giant projects together with our partners and redrawing the energy map of the world." And end of quote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Jafarova. You pointed out the extreme importance of the Southern Gas Corridor. And one word that really catches me, I think it's very important to a bit more debate on that. As our Q&A session is approaching, with just one last more speaker to talk, as he pointed out about the environmental issues, protection, the latest and the highest standards in the world. But let me point following. A lot of countries in the European Union, Europe all overall, have a problem with too much emissions coming from coal. And coal is a big drama to all of us. A lot of countries depend, and it's very expensive, and it's going to bring the energy sectors of far of the companies of some of countries in the European Union to bankruptcy, unless we realize that a very cheap, simple, efficient solution as alternative to coal, talking about next generation, about young people, is gas. It's clean, it's efficient. So the Southern Gas Corridor brings another aspect and a helping hand to those countries who are heavily dependent on coal, which is not honest to the next generation, to the young people. It's polluting heavily to start redesigning their energy systems. And I think it's easy, it's cheap, and it's very efficient. So anyhow, by saying this also environmental aspect of what we do, our last, probably one of the most prominent speakers, very active always, and on the point, Eka Keshelashvili. She is a former Prime Minister of Georgia.
Vice Prime Minister.
Okay, so probably future Prime.
Probably future.
We work on that.
Well, thank you, Chair. I'm extremely pleased and fortunate to be here with all of you today and joining this panel. And being in this beautiful environment, this room, it's hard not to feel that weight of responsibility for the future, even more so. When you see the legacy that was left by those who lived before us in this beauty, what is it that we do so that we deliver the legacy for the future generations in the way that one could be proud of? And before going to the exact points of a bit of a stock taking where we are in terms of the achievements with the Southern Gas Corridor as of now and then some of the expectations for the future, I think it is merited to point out today that how it all started and then how much of a visionary political leadership in a strategic way it took from the political leaders in the countries like Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey at the time, coming up with this idea of a mega project that for some in Europe at the time seemed to be too ambitious, unrealistic. Nobody was ready to really put a political capital behind it that much, or finances to begin with when it comes to the support of the kinds that the European Union would give to the projects at that time in a different way. And it took the vision, it took the commitment and resilience and resolute approach to push through it. And I lived through that moment, I lived through the decades, and I'm extremely pleased to see where we are now, when the questions about the strategic importance of this project are not questions anymore. We don't have to persuade anybody how important this project is. And believe me, we had to. I remember back then, 15 years ago, 10 years ago even, we had this dialogue with the partners in Europe as well, why it mattered to begin with, to invest in this, to invest political capital which was needed to defend this project, but how much of this resilience and commitment it took from the leaders of our countries to push through it and not to abandon the idea that with the persistence, with investment into it and commitment, it would come along. And then one more remark before going to the exact points. We've talked about different historical moments. President Margvelashvili raised the issue related to 2006 when Georgia was cut off from its energy supplies, not for technical reasons, but more for geopolitical at the time. And I remember how much essential at the time was the help that came from Azerbaijan for us to survive physically. And that brings to the point that reliability of partners with whom you develop the partnerships matters a lot. And then commitment, reliability, that you can trust that the agreements that are made, they will be implemented. And it goes beyond the economic profits when it comes to the reliability of the partnerships that we are talking about. And that's what the Southern Gas Corridor brings to the table. It's all about economics as well, great benefits that have been pointed out eloquently by the speakers, But it's more than that. It's reliability of our partnerships, of cooperative spirit of a kind that binds us together, that we can rely upon. And then no matter what happens, no matter what could be economic hardships, financial crises that nobody can predict how they could be unfolded in the future, we are the partners that could always trust that no matter what happens, we will stand by our commitments. And there will be no danger of any supplies or decrease of that could be somehow diverted somewhere else because something could be more profitable at some point of time. This is a strategic commitment of the kind that we have proven that we are committed to the fullest. And it's the political leadership, but it's our societies as well. I can fully confirm that from the societies that I know best in this environment. It's my own country, Georgia, but it's Azerbaijan that I can speak firmly as well. I could allow myself to say that it's the societal commitment that is quite strong into that as well, which brings the benefit of that sustainable continuity of the commitment in the future. Now, one element that I would think would be good to add to the discussion today is the European Union's angle perhaps into it. We haven't really touched it that much. And I think it is important to note that as of now, there is a very strong realization in the European Union of the strategic importance of this project. There are many reasons why, including a bit of an awakening moment through different crises that Europe had to go through, with a cut-off of the supplies related to the Ukrainian crisis at the time, again originated by the country that has a dominance in terms of supply to Europe so far in many countries. So what Europe has realized is that diversity matters a lot. Competitiveness, reliability of the partnerships, and then isolation of certain member states in particular circumstances could be an essential threat to their security and then social stability. So that interconnectivity between the member states and then diversification of the networks is key. And then competitiveness is the foundation of that. So inclusiveness, competitiveness, diversity, reliability versus dominance, isolation, and then manipulation with that. And again, Southern Gas Corridor brings that to the table quite clearly. And we see that with the streams that could be diversified with the Balkan side of it, and then with the Central Europe more through Bulgaria as well, is a clear example of that. We've seen that European Union unanimously between the Council, Commission, and then the Parliament consecutively during 3 years, 2013, 15, 17, named Southern Gas Corridor as the project of common interest. It has a very specific connotation. What it matters is not just the symbolism of it. It brings different rules of the game when it comes to how you operate as a project. When you have the acceleration from the side of the Europe with the licenses, authorizations, and then anything else that politically and from the side of the regulation could come into it. And it's an excellent news to hear that the final authorizations have been already issued from the side of the Italian government, because that gives a different predictability of the timeline. I never questioned the fact that it would have happened, but the timeline in business matters because that all relates obviously to the investments and then timelines as they have been committed to. So in other words, European Union is where European Union should be as of now. But whether European Union is ready for the future needs, that could be the question. And there I would go to the eastern part of the Caspian Sea. If we see that the streams of the networks diversify, which is an excellent news in the way how predictability of that could be shaped up, not crystallized perhaps fully, is that more gas will be needed. And then definitely when it comes to the agreement that has been already reached regarding the status of the Caspian Sea is the good context. Turkmenistan has been, if not keen, quite open and enthusiastic about having an agreement with Azerbaijan on the possibilities of joining the effort. How, when, and in which shape they could materialize, we still have to see. But when it comes to European Union putting a muscle into it, in a good sense of that, bringing its own political capital and then predictability of easiness then of operation in Europe when it comes to supply lines, that could only benefit this development. So I would say that we are at the good place where we are, but we're not at the point of irreversibility of the growth of that as it should be, with the more benefit that needs to be delivered, with more connectivity, inclusiveness, and competitiveness. So as much as we could engage countries from the Caspian Sea more into that, that will bring more gas into the pipelines and then more predictability of the upscaling of the supplies. So it's not the cap of the 20 BCM that we can talk about at some point of time in terms of doubling down, but then it could be beyond 35 and 40 even when it comes to the needs of that. We're all ready for that. From the side of my own country, I could only once again express full commitment to this project, and as I've had, it's not a matter of the political leaderships. We have seen changes in the Georgian context of the political leaderships, but the societal commitment to that cause is quite strong, it's quite well understood, and I believe that we don't have any challenge in that sense for the future that we need to fare. So with that positive note, I'll conclude my intervention.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Prime Minister. Great words of wisdom. No need to comment at all. I'm just going to bring another example. As you talk about Georgia 2006, let it be known that in 2008, Bulgaria had the same drama, as Russia and Ukraine were struggling about some contracts and deliveries of gas. Gazprom decided to stop gas deliveries to Ukraine, and Bulgaria was drying out of gas in the very coldest days of the very cold winter. And then you sit in your small apartment somewhere, you're asking yourself and your politicians, do we have a contract with Gazprom? Yes. Are we paying on time? Yes. Why don't we get gas? Well, this is if you are dependent on just one monopolistic structure. And now, of course, we are very proud and very grateful. Countries came together, thank you Italy, thank you Azerbaijan, together in an attempt for diversity, connectivity, everyone has a win-win situation. We have now a Q&A session. I see a lot of young people here. I thank you being with us. I think it's very important that you listen to the wisdom of some of those proven politicians, heads of state and government who are with us today. But anyone is welcome. Please shoot tough questions to these great speakers here. Please. Anna. You can go on stage.
I think you will welcome me after what I was about to say. I was listening to all of you with great interest, and obviously the points that you made were excellent, but nobody was touching the issue of Nord Stream, or Brua for that matter. And I do remember that during the presidency, the Romanian presidency of the European Council, one of the very toughest directives that we had to deal with, and I have to say we dealt in a very responsible and professional manner, and we got that gas directive closed after being around for so many years. So on a very tough presidency that we had in terms of time, we got that nailed down, and there weren't easy discussions. So how do you see the debates and the discussions going forward about the Nord Stream 2, about the Brua, about the, the continuous efforts of one power that continues to see energy as a political tool, as the former president of Georgia, our dear friend, mentioned it, and I know that by talking to a lot of you, you do share that view. So what do we need to do to make sure that we are taking care of energy diversity, energy security for the benefit of national interest, but likewise the international community as well? Because if you continue to allow, and you just mentioned the president, that cold night when, our people rightfully, and Romania is pretty much in the same position, we continue to pay probably the highest price for gas in Europe, from one supplier. Luckily, Romania is not that dependable as other countries, and Bulgaria for that matter. So how do you deal with this mix on an international scale? The other point, and here we complement the efforts of Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, and Georgia and Romania for another corridor. So in other words, yes, energy security is very important, not for the present, but for the future as well. But we need to deal with that in a very, very responsible manner and cut down, because I'm not so sure that Ukraine is in a better position today than it was in 2008. I don't know the developments, if there is an agreement reached out, but that's for the future. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Please.
I'll try to be very, very, very quick. It is a very complex issue, and then rightfully pointed out, obviously, when it comes to the issues related to the Nord Stream 2, and what is an approach that the European Union might be taking with that issue, and then what is the resonance of the balance of the big countries versus not that big countries in the way that they could influence their policies from inside. And it is not the premise per se of the pipeline, but then how it is being executed, and then how it goes to the network of the supplies then. And then there could be different scenarios differently played out, but then the current one is a very bad one. And then that's obvious. But what I wanted to point out is that Southern Gas Corridor for some time suffered from attacks from the Russian side, and then those who would propagate it with the Russian money even on that, as if the Southern Gas Corridor was versus Nord Stream 2 or against Russian interests. So if anybody, if you would supported this gas corridor, you would have somehow acted against Russia per se. Southern Gas Corridor has its own merits. It brings its own benefit to the energy security of Europe. And then it is not something that needs to be a zero-sum game in one way or the other. And I think it is important because of that to distinguish some of it. Perhaps that's one of the reasons why we haven't touched it from our side proactively when it comes to the Nord Stream 2. Part of the deal, obviously, is the internal regulations and then the way how the European member countries deal with the energy-related issues, with the reversal flows and interconnectors and then the grids currently. But the Nord Stream 2 is not the best example, obviously, to be mild on that, of what the solidarity in the European Union should be when it comes to the common policies and understanding of that between the member states.
Thank you very much. Two more facts. Yeah, please,
point,
Mr. President.
Just very shortly. I would say that it is add to this discussion the issue of agri as an interesting format of cooperation between Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Romania. In many cases, I mean, there are lots of discussions about economic visibility concerning agri, and it's a little bit complicated logistically, but I think this is a project that we should all be very strongly looking at, and not only from energy, but from the Black Sea security perspective. We all now are committed to strongly look at the Black Sea security issue and look at the Black Sea as a sea of European cooperation versus the confrontation model in Black Sea that is presented to us as a reality from Russian perspective. I think that after signing of association agreement of Georgia and Ukraine, and after basically seeing the Black Sea, we can really look at the Black Sea as a sea of economic cooperation, a sea where a country like Georgia has a direct basically European border with Romania and Bulgaria. And including energy projects in this respect, I think that they would contribute to a security issue of a Black Sea, which is becoming more and more on the agenda. I hope so, even more on the agenda of the North Atlantic Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Jafarova.
Thank you. Just to comment quickly on your question about how we deal with this mix and politicization of energy. Well, you know, often in the world, energy is politicized, and when you speak about energy security, some countries do use it as a political tool. But what I would say, about in the context of the Southern Gas Corridor, we should really regard it as a project that serves the broader interests of the broader region, serving the security, energy security, and becoming a multi-billion energy project that is serving diversification and competitiveness. And also the Southern Gas Corridor is something that gives a sense of security in terms of the diversification, not only the routes but also the sources. And this is something that we should bear in mind. When it comes to Nord Stream and the things that have been running in the context of becoming of the Southern Gas Corridor, and the things are pretty much clear what was happening in that context. And what I would say is that, again, we don't see Nord Stream and the Southern Gas Corridor should compete with each other. And it's a matter of choices in many cases. I understand that there is a factor of competition, but still wouldn't like to see it as something that is really competing with, something that is really running in parallel. Again, it brings the diversification of sources and routes, and we should regard this project purely from that context. And then Brua is just another potential interconnector that could join to the potentially expandable Southern Gas Corridor project. Because again, we also call it as an expandable project. Madam Deputy Prime Minister mentioned about Turkmenistan and the potential project in the context of the convention that was signed in Aktau and how things could really be facilitated in that context. Well, again, once you have the infrastructure in place and it is really there, you can really be open to another opportunities and projects that potentially can come in the way. And again, we should regard whatever might come from Turkmenistan, whether they really would want to jump in or not, again, it's a political issue, as something that is possible in the future once they make up their mind that they really want to go into that place. But again, the parties that want this to happen have to also have a say and step forward and do something about it. But the Southern Gas Corridor, again, once the infrastructure is there, you can always use it.
Thank you very much. I promise to be on time. If there are more questions, just 1 minute. Yeah, please, 1 minute. You want to talk?
Well, I think Turkmenistan is a very critical country for this, because we have been discussing with Turkmenistan since the independent day. Now the capacity of TANAP could be increased to 30 billion cubic meter very easily. Azerbaijan only can use 16 billion cubic meters. Turkey will buy 6 billion. And I think the important thing is to talk with Turkmenistan and to have another 15 billion cubic meters from Turkmenistan through Caspian Sea and connect with the TANAP. That, I think, will help many other European countries for gas production, consumption.
Great. Thank you. I have to close this session. We have an opening ceremony ahead of us, extremely important. If there are more questions, we have, just a second, we have great panels here. You can talk to them and they will give you more information. Just 2 last comments, I think very important. Ukraine today is much more safe. Because of the European Union, Ukraine is linked even to Norwegian gas. So that Ukraine today doesn't need Russian gas at all. Today, 92% of gas deliveries to Ukraine does not come from Russia anymore. So just as a fact for you to know. And second more important thing is Nord Stream 2. When I was the acting president, there was a coalition of countries who signed against Nord Stream 2, and then we were heading against the wall of, we call it, the very romantic approach of Russia and Germany, Germany towards Russia. And now the Germans have a new argument, you cannot compete with that. And that is that they want to bring 1 million electric cars in the next 2-3 years. They want to produce 120 new electric models in the next 3 years. They're reshuffling the total industry, thousands of factories, and new delivery chains. That is all linked to electricity, which Germany was unfortunately so, let's say, I would say not wise enough to shut down its nuclear power stations and continue running its coal stations, coal power plants. And Germany is the second more dependent on coal country. They need to shut down coal as fast as possible. They're going to switch to gas, and they're going to tell you, well, we need gas just because of bringing electric cars to the market. Anyhow, we're closing with this, and I want to thank my panelists, and big applause also to the organizers, to the Senate, to NJC, and everyone that contributed.
Thank you, Rosen. You were a great leader of the panel.